Entrepreneurs can spend a lifetime building a business. It's easy to put off thinking about what happens when they retire or after they're gone. It's a big issue here in our region, where there are many privately held small and mid-sized businesses owned by baby boomers. Well, no matter how old or close to retirement you are, now's the time to think about the issue. Stephen Price is chairman and CEO of Solenture, and Michael Silverman is an attorney with Cohen and Grigsby, both here in Pittsburgh. And welcome. Good to see both of you.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
So Cohen and Grigsby, big law firm here in town. For folks who don't know Solenture, what exactly are you guys?
We help companies grow and ultimately manage aspects within the business like compensation, benefits, and planning, and then ultimately help convert the wealth created by the business into personal private wealth.
Okay, very good, which gets to this transition issue. And Cohen and Grigsby, I'm sure, works with businesses of all sizes here in our region.
We do. We work with typically closely held businesses throughout the life cycle of a business.
Okay, and so you guys, you're working with these guys and women all the time, and you know, they build up these organizations. Do you find that that this issue of what will happen when I'm no longer in a position to run this business, or when I need to cash out, I mean, how often are they really given that serious thought all the way along the way?
Generally, our experience has been it's something that's in the back of their mind, but they're usually not prepared for it, and it's not part of their ongoing planning. They have little pieces that where they've touched on it from time to time, but it might be relative to an emergency like a death or a disability, but they really don't have a comprehensive plan that takes them throughout the entire life cycle and says, well, this is how eventually I'm going to get out.
Well, you don't want to think about it, right? In many cases, you're just in the back of your mind, I'm going to just live forever, I guess. Do you find the same thing?
I think it's the same thing as getting a client to do an estate plan. They typically want to procrastinate and put it off to another day. And I think the typical business owner doesn't really look at his or her business from the outside in. And they're just basically taking care of the day-to-day emergencies and focusing on growth. They're not focusing on getting a transition plan and ultimately an exit plan in place for their business.
And real consequences if you don't think about this, and particularly if you find yourself in a crisis situation, right?
Sure. Well, a good example would be, let's say something happens to the owner. You might have the plan in place to say, well, this is how the ownership is transitioned, and maybe you've insured it or something else. But think about that Monday morning after the funeral. Who's going to contact the main customers and the vendors and talk to the bank and get all the employees in a room and make them feel okay? So what's the other half of the equation, which is this business has to survive, and what plans do you have in place to really make that happen?
Well, and then the other issue is just turning over the reins. Maybe you want to cash out, you want that nice, comfortable retirement. That takes planning too.
It does, and they're both voluntary and involuntary transfers of a business. You have the situation where a key principal in a business gets hit by a bus, and you need to have a successor in place and a seamless transition for that event. And then similarly, with an ultimate exit event, you need to have all the key persons involved in the business, the key employees, the owners, in sync as to how the exit's going to be affected.
Wow. So what happens when they don't do this? I imagine you've seen some real horror stories over the years.
Well, yeah, I think a couple things happen. One, you just don't capture the true value of the enterprise because there's lots of things you should have done to really cement the value, whether it's legal or accounting or locking down customers or key employees. That'll happen. The real big horror story is you did nothing, and at the end of the day, your competition got the value of your business, not you or your family.
Well, it folds.
It folds.
Really?
Yeah.
You've seen that kind of thing happen?
It has, because you don't have life insurance in place to fund a buyout, you don't have succession planning in place, and you end up with a fire sale of the business. So a competitor can come in and swoop the business up rather than it evolving into your family or to your key employees.
Or you were just waiting for, someday Junior will be ready. And you kept on waiting, and now you're 70 years old. They've gone off and done something else, and it all didn't work out, and you have no plan in place. And it just kind of devolves over time to the point where you just close the doors and sell the equipment. That would be a bad thing.
Well, it's true. I mean, think about your employees and everybody who helped contribute to the business over the years. They're out on the street, or they are getting snapped up by the competitors you spent all those years trying to beat. So how do you begin to chip away at this? I guess first you have to get over that hurdle of actually beginning to think you need to start planning, but then where do you begin?
Well, we begin with a value enhancement assessment where we'll come in and we'll look at all aspects of the business. And that's why this is a little bit different. Everyone has professional advisors, but they tend to be very narrowly focused in whatever their discipline is. And we put together a multidisciplinary team that'll come in and look at all aspects of the business and help you think through where do you have deficits and where do you need improvement. And basically, how do you run your business so if the next day a strategic buyer walked in, you'd be ready to capture the highest potential value for that business and make a transaction happen. Because even if you aren't planning to do that, it'll result in having a better run business that's more profitable and clearer for everybody to understand what the future holds.
Well, I love this idea, looking at your business from the outside in. That has value whether or not you're going to sell it. It would just seem to have value in terms of the value you're getting out of it while you're alive and running it.
Sure. I tell every client that you have to think about the fact that someday you may sell your business, and what's going to happen when you do that is a buyer's going to come in and do due diligence on your business. Look at every facet of your business to make sure that you're in effect airtight and squeaky clean, and that they're buying a business that they don't feel uncomfortable with the transition. They don't have to have some of the purchase price being contingent upon certain milestones being reached in the future, financial milestones. So we'll do that now, well in advance of a transition event or a transaction occurring. We'll look at every facet of your business. We'll assign rankings to those different factors that we're looking at, and we'll figure out what areas we could improve and where there are value enhancement opportunities as well.
Wow. Well, we could keep going. Obviously, a lot more to dig into when you're talking about these kinds of issues. If somebody wants to find you, how do they?
We're on the web at www.solenture.com. Find us there, and names and contacts, and learn more about our part of the business.
All right.
And my firm you can find on the web at www.cohenlaw.com.
Cohenlaw.com. Great. Stephen Price, Michael Silverman, thank you both so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Words to the wise. And we'll be back in a minute with little dollars and cents. Stay with us.